Hey everybody, Steve Burns here. This is going to be week 3 of our intermediate Photoshop class, and I wanted to, in this particular exercise, I want to go over just creating a 3-point perspective in Photoshop. So we're always talking about, Photoshop being able to do all these cool little things with effects and compositing and digital painting, but I want to go talk about, some of the traditional ways of working in Photoshop, honoring perspective. Now, so far we've tackled 1-point perspective, we tackled 2-point perspective. Let's play around with 3-point perspective. I like to work with a medium gray background, so I'm going to start with my adjustment layer here, and I want an adjustment layer that's going to produce a solid color. I'm going to target that. Now, the solid color I'm going to give is going to be a medium gray, kind of a little bit darker. We'll give it something like this. Okay, now that's going to be my background. And I'm gonna place a horizon line in my scene. So again, the rules of perspective are always that your vanishing points are going to land on your horizon line. So I'm going to create a horizon line. How about I just come up here into the rulers? If you don't have your rulers, once again, Command or Control R is your shortcut for rulers. Okay, and I'm going to grab a guide to create my horizon line. So how about I'm going to start from up here. I'm just going to arbitrarily throw it here, and I'm going to also start to establish my vanishing points. So I'm going to grab. Let's go ahead and pull this on over here a little bit. Once my machine figures out, there we go. Now I'm going to go to the guide here. I'm going to place one. Let's place it a little further apart. Okay, I'm going to place another right about there. That's going to be my vanishing point. In fact, I'm going to put this one closer to my document than the other. Okay, and now I want to create my my grid for that. So if I come back down through here and go to my polygon tool, the same preferences or attributes that I set previously for my grid should all still be there. And I can see right up here is 100 sides. Hit the little gear symbol. It's a star with 99% indent. So all that's stayed intact. Okay, and it'll stay there until you decide to delete them. So I'm gonna come right over here to the far side, put my cursor right on my left vanishing point and drag it all the way over just like this. Now, what you could do, and if I click off that, you can see, if I get in close, you can see it takes on the color of my foreground color. If I don't want that, it's right up here under the fill option. If I click the fill color, I can go to red, which it should change it, or actually, if I'm here, that's the background. Let's go ahead and target this here. Sorry about that. Come up here, target red. All right, and if I click off, now that's red. Now you can keep it this way. I shared with you the other way by giving it a layer styles effect of stroke, because it allows you to control the thickness of the stroke and the color of the stroke. All right, so let's pull this down. Let's go ahead and give another grid on the other side. Now here's a trick here. If you're creating your buildings, you have some pretty large gaps in here. It may be a little bit difficult to see. So it may throw you off a little bit. So what you're going to do is go to this layer, and you're going to duplicate the layer. Command or Control J. There. Next, you're going to hit your Command or Control T for free transform. You're not going to transform it. You're just going to rotate it. Put your cursor outside it and look at where it starts, and see right there. Now you're adding another set of grid lines in there. All right, so let's keep that in mind. All right, now let's go to the other and create another set of grid. Go to the right side, place it on my, actually make sure I go to my polygon tool. All right. I'm going to target my vanishing point on the right, drag it on over. Okay. This one I'm going to give maybe a green, right? Or maybe something. Let's go create a different color for that. Now, if I click it, top right hand corner, it's going to give me my color options or color fill options. And I'm going to target the color. All right, now I'm going to come over here and grab like a nice bright green so it's easy to see. Okay, if I click off it, I'll just click back here, my little fill layer. You can see I have my other perspective grid there. That one is much closer to the document bound, so I may not need to necessarily add another grid in between, but I can if I want to. All right, so everything on that grid. All right, so I have all my grids here, not all of them. I have one more to do. I want to do your third point, 3-point perspective. Command minus, pull it on out. And let's place the third one down here at the bottom. Okay? So I'll grab another horizontal line. Let's place it right down here. Let's go get another vertical line. I'll place it probably like so. Okay? And I'm going to create a third grid off of here. So, polygon tool, which is already selected. And if I click and drag it, there we go. We have a third set of points. So on this one, I'm thinking maybe give this a yellow. So come on up to the fill option. Select the color fill box, color picker box. Give it a yellow. Click OK. All right. So I'm going to take all of these grids. First one is selected. Shift key. Target the last one. It selects them all. Command G. Command 0 pops the whole thing to view. It's going to get confusing, huh? Not really. You guys will be able to handle this. And I'm going to double click this one and call this one perspective lines. Okay, there we go. We can bring down the opacity of that entire layer group. Okay. And I'm just going to bring it down a little bit. See there? All right, so that makes it a little bit easier for you to work in. Now let's go ahead and tackle one building. Let's create one building. We'll create one where the top of the building goes above the horizon line, and we'll make one that's completely below the horizon line. So in this assignment, I'm going to want you to use textures. Okay? I'm going to want you to use textures. And you can start with utilizing your vector shapes if you like. All right? So let's start. I'll do one with the vector shapes so it makes it easy. I'm going to go to my vector lines. I'm going to take a look. That's my third point perspective. Perspective lines. This one here is the green coming from the right. And then right below this are the two that I use to create two sets of perspective lines. If you grab these two together, put your mouse on the right hand side, right click, merge those shapes together, you can just put that onto one. So now you have your three sets of lines for your 3-point perspective. It just makes things a lot easier for you. Still a vector shape, they just merge together. Now the reason I did that was because maybe you want to turn things on and off. Right? So let's start with the right side of the building. The right side of the building is going to flow with what? This set of lines, the blue lines, right? So I can turn these off temporarily. Okay. Now, if I go and grab my vector shape, and I'm going to give that shape a different color. Let's give it something like a little deeper, give it kind of a black, because that's going to be the side of the building, okay? I'm going to make a shape. So make a quick little shape here. I want to make it darker black, so double click on it, make it a little deeper. There we go. Okay. All right, this is inside the perspective lines. I don't want that. I want that outside that group. Pull it on out. There we go. Okay. So perspective lines is 45%. If I turn it on stronger, and this is why I like to add the effects to it, because if I'm out of this group, I'm going to see just the black line. All right. If I come over here, hit the A key on my keyboard to get my vector shape here, let's go and I target it, that turns on. Actually, what happened here, yeah, it went to black here because I changed the foreground color. This is why I like to put an effects on here. That was red originally, right? So if I double click over here on the right hand side, I like to just give it a stroke it on the outside, give it the color that I want, and it's always going to stay there. It just makes life a lot easier. If I go 2 point or 1 point, if 1 point's fine, fine. So anywhere I click, that line will always be there. Okay. If I go to this one here, that's going to be green. I'll double click on this one, and I don't have to do it again. Actually, I can just take this one, hold the Alt or Option key, drag the stroke on top of it. It's going to give it the same characteristics as the one below. Double click on stroke, and on this one, give it green. And the top one, I think we had yellow, right? So double click it. I can even go that way, or Alt or Option, drag the effect on top of that one. It's there. Just double click on stroke and give it a yellow. There you go. And it'll always be there. It won't go away. So if I come up here to perspective grid and bring down the opacity for the whole layer group, see, they'll always be there. You never have to worry about anything accidentally disappearing or changing color. All right, so once again, I'm going to just, let's see, turn that one off and turn that one off for the time being. And we're going to work with the side, with the left-hand side. Here's where it gets fun. Now, go to my rectangle, and I'm going to utilize my white arrow tool to select my shape. If I'm looking, get in close here. Hate it when I do that. I want to get in close. Look at where it's closest on the perspective grid. Okay. So if I'm looking at the perspective grid, I'm going to look at this line here and find out where things are. So I want these vectors here on the top of this square to flow, to terminate with this line. I want to flow parallel to the line right above it. All right, I'm going to grab this here, grab those points, and I'm going to bring it down to kind of match this line. All right, this is going to be the left-hand side of my building. Going down to the bottom, I think I'll go grab this point here and slide it straight on up. All right, and we want these horizontal lines, or the sides of this, to flow with that. Is that making sense? Okay, now let's go get the other side. Actually, before, let's actually pull this back, Control minus, go to my layers, turn on your perspective grid. At least I want the one on the bottom, not that one. That's for the other side. I want this one now. Okay, so now the lines are going to be parallel to my yellow lines. Select this one on the bottom, keep it parallel to the red, but also the vertical aspects of this has to match. Is that making sense? And this one looks like it's falling right in line. Now let's go do the other side of the building. Go grab my vector shape. I'm just going to lay this down very quickly. This is going to be the brighter side. Double click on it. Make it a lot brighter. Go right about there. Okay. And I'm going to go to hit the A key. And I'm going to just nudge. I'm hitting the arrow keys on my keyboard and nudge the whole thing together. I'm going to get in close to the top. Select these points. Arrow keys, nudge it down. Go to the bottom, space bar. Okay. And I'm going to select these points. Right. The question is, did I duplicate the original polygon tool? No, I did not. I started fresh. It's just faster and easier. Because you got the polygon tool there. You just place it on the vanishing points, you just drag across. It's just faster. So I grab these two here, hit the arrow keys and just nudge them up. Now those two corners are matching, right? Now this edge we know is correct according to following our lines. This side is not. So let's say I want this building to be a shorter wall. So I'm going to grab these two. And now I want the vertical edges to match the yellow lines, which means this is going to come right about there. Now these edges we need to determine next. All right. Now we need to determine how the right-hand side is going to work. So you need to turn on your other grid. Turn that one off. That one's on. I want to turn that one off. I mean, you can keep them all on if you want to. Okay. And let's go. I'm going to turn this one. There it is, my green on. And select this point. Bring this on up. You want to keep your yellow one on, your vertical one on for this, right? Because you want to make sure that this is going to be, it's going to parallel. So I want to look at the green. If the red is in the way, and I may need to kind of rename these. Well, I'll call this one red. All right, this one is going to be your green. This one will be, of course, your yellow. So I don't have to guess where things are anymore. I know where they are now, just by looking at the title. You got the little effects under here. Hit that little triangle there. It just cascades them up. So you don't have to, they'll be right next to each other as you need them. If you need them, or bring this on down, double click it so I can give a little more space. Go work in the proper, there we go. So if I get in close, okay. So this corner here, it's going to flow to match my green, in which it does, or close to it, almost. Bring it more like this. The bottom has, again, matched the green. Select this corner here, bring it on up, while this matches the yellow. Okay, so what do we need to do next? We need the top, right? So we'll make that one kind of a medium gray. We'll make one more. Select this, and we'll make this a little bit of a lighter, something like there. Okay, so at this point it should be fairly easy. So hit the A key to go to my past selection tools. I want the direct selection tool. Select this corner, put one there. Easy as pie at this point. Select that corner, put one here. Select this corner, put one there. All right, what do we do to this one?
Straighten up completely with that.
So that goes with the red, right? And then this one has to go with what? Well, this side goes with the red, while the other side goes with the yellow. Right? Oh, no, the green, I'm sorry. So if I'm looking at this, the red here, what was that?
You can bring that up a little bit
That's with the green. This is with the red. So we want to bring this one up here. That was an accident. Push it on over. I'm just using the arrow keys. Now, why is that so flat? All right, so this side here, this side is going to be with the red. Yep, that's going to be with the red. This side is going to be with the green. Let me get in closer. So this has got to flow with the green, so it's got to come up more. There. This side is with the red. That's pretty close. Actually, it can come up. Maybe right about there. Yeah. Does that make sense? Okay. So as it gets closer to the vanishing point, it gets flatter. As it gets to the vanishing point or the horizon line, horizon line is what I should say, not the vanishing point, but as it gets closer to the horizon line, it gets flatter. As it gets above the horizon line, you start to see underneath it. It's below the horizon line, you see on top of it. So if I make a square right down here, you're going to see more of the face of that roof. You're going to see more of the rooftop. All right. I want to show you another way you can do it too if you're going to do textures. Is you don't have to stick to the vector shape way. Say, for example, you want to just freehand it, right? So I'll make like a blue color for the foreground, or a cyanish color, nice bright sinus color for the background. And I go to my brush. And with my brush targeted, I'll make it 100% opacity. And I'm going to make a brand new layer. Let's go ahead and put it underneath this. I'm going to turn that, cascade it up. Here are my 3 layers that's creating this building. Select them all and immediately command group it. Don't do it after you have 50 different layers up there. Do it immediately. So that those are grouped, they're done. And call it whatever you want. So from the very get-go, work that way. So let's create another example. I'll make a brand new layer here. And if I right-click, I want to grab just a solid brush. So if I go back up to the top here, I should have a standard solid edge brush. I'm going to get that one right there. If I go to my pen properties here, my brush properties, if I select it, actually I'm going to select it here, the 4th one over. And again, I'm using the new Photoshop 2020. Get rid of the rest of these. I want it, very little spacing, a nice little tight brush. I want it completely solid. I don't want any opacity. Okay, I don't want anything on. Smoothing's fine. It can stay on. I can turn off smoothing as well. So if I come into my drop menu, new brush preset, save it, capture brush size, making this available to all my brushes is why I don't include tool settings. Otherwise, this brush will be applied or usable only to this one single brush. So I want this available for my stamp tool, for my eraser tool, for any other of my brush tools. I'm going to click OK. All right, get rid of that one. I'm done with it. So I'm going to let's kind of make this, make it a little smaller here, like so. All right. So you're welcome. You want to kind of work your thoughts out here. Like say you're going to tap here, right? Hold your Shift key and tap there. All right, that's going to be one side. In fact, let me undo that one. I want to make it lower down here, like right about there. And tap there. Oops. And select it there. Okay. So we're going to do one side. Tap here. Hold the shift key to there. Tap here. Hold the shift key. I'm in between these two red lines here. Select it. So if I get in closer. All right. So tap here. Shift key. Straight point. Shift key. Comes down to this here. Okay. That making sense? Tap here to this side. Okay. Shift key. All right. So tap and release, shift, tap and release, shift, tap and release. Bring it up. You can do this. You can use like a smaller line, a lighter line if you like. Tap and release. Follow the red lines. Probably right about there. This one's following the green lines to there. You can do this to start your initial building. Now, show me where you can go. I'm going to show you where you can go from here. You can start your buildings this way, and each of your shapes is going to be on its own layer, right? If you're going to draw it out. So you're just using this as a template. Now we're going to create a texture pattern, a resizable texture pattern. We're going to go right down here, and I'm going to grab what's called the pattern adjustment layer. Select it, and guess what I'm getting? I'm getting some very interesting little patterns here. I can size these patterns, make them smaller, and they're scalable and they're seamless. So if let's go get that again. Pattern. I have a variety of patterns here. I can set different options for this. Or I can make my own. Well, let's go make my own. Let's cancel this out for the time being. Let's go to Bridge. And in my favorites, and as it's thinking here, okay, I'm going to have, at least I should have it over here. I'm going to go over to my desktop, and I have in my desktop school files folder, and I have those files that you guys are all using, student work files here. And I have textures folder down here. Now, I organize all my textures in one location, particularly for this particular example. And these are seamless textures. Everybody's watching? He's not watching. All right. So if I grab this and I take a look at these are fairly seamless textures. So I'm going to go inspect them. Now look at these streets here. Seamless textures. So you guys are going to find textures of streets that you're going to use to texture your entire image. You want to put crackling effects on your building. How about this one here? Let's do this one. All right, let's do this one. We'll utilize this one here. Open it up. Give it a hot minute. I'm noticing 2020 has a little bit of little memory access issues here. It's a little slow, and this is not a big image. All right, so there's my image. Now I'm gonna give this a little more contrast. So Command or Control M, okay, or Image menu, adjustment, curves. Give it a little bit of strength in the low tones. See that? You can always give it a little more brightness in the higher tones, but I'm going to keep the higher tones where they are. Just want to kind of give it a nice little richness in here in the windows. That works. Command or Control A for select all. Edit menu, define pattern. Everybody watching this? Edit menu, define pattern. So there's the building. Click OK as a pattern. Now let's go apply a pattern. Let's see. Let's go back to my other file. Hit the F key. There we go. Go back to the other file. And we're going to create a new adjustment layer. Here. Pattern. Right? Well, what if I want to adjust the size of this? See how I can start to match perspective? Things way in the back going to get way smaller. Anything in the front is going to get way bigger. Okay. I'll start with the 100% for now, which is going to be your standard. And there's a link to my layer. Okay. So I'm going to just click OK, and there it is. So here's where it gets fun. If I try to resize and distort this, so basically, let's use the vector shape in this example. It's on its own layer. If I hit Control T, right, nothing's going to happen. But what I can do is I can make this a smart object. If I right-click, create a smart object, it's going to treat it like it's a standard layer. If I hit Command T, guess what I can do? I can start resizing this around. Let's place it on top of my vector shape. I'm going to hit OK for now. Let's go to my group. And I'm going to place this on top of the darker one. Right there. Okay. And I need to match perspective, right? So to make it easier, I'm thinking, let's put it like below it, just at first. Command T, bring it down to this corner here. Now, anybody remember the shortcut for distort? Control, that's right. Now here's a better way. I've got a better idea here. We're going to place it on top of this shape and make it what? A clipping path. Alt. See? So now I want to resize this texture to match the perspective of the shape that I have. So let's get in closer. Command or Control T. There's my bounding box. Control T is the shortcut for distort. So take this point and I can go to Control key, distort, or go to Edit menu, transform, and just select distort. If I grab this point, see, one there, grab this point, match the perspective, put it right there, slightly inside, space bar to move that up, grab this one, put it down below right about there, and then go grab this one, and you're just matching those four corners. That's a slick little way of establishing textures very quickly for your building. Hit Enter key, and there it is. All right, let's take that same one, and I can duplicate it. Command or Control J, and I'm going to move it out of the way. Hit the V key, move it out of the way. But this one I'm going to want on top of what? This side. Bring it on over. I'm going to want this as a clipping path to the, see? Now, Command T, or better yet, Edit Menu, Transform, Distort, and just match it up, just like the other one. See, it maintained your position of where you last left off. That's the advantage of smart objects. So you can go back, so you can match it up. And again, you can, let's go ahead and let's get them all in place. See? So this one here, you may want to drag down a little bit, like that. This one here, you want to drag up a little bit, so if we're getting closer, you want to drag that up a little bit. You have to massage this a little bit, but get as close as we can. Everything's matching the yellow lines on the right side, or the green lines to be exact. So to speak. Okay, not perfect, but you're getting the point. So one side of the building is going to be dark. That's this one over here. So if I target this one, it's a smart object, and I apply an image adjustment and the curves to it. It's only affecting that side of the building. Now, shaded side of the buildings aren't just bringing the midtones down. They're also bringing your highlights down. Highlights and midtones straight down, so it becomes shadowy, like so. The other side of the building here, because it's a smart object, again, apply another curves. Image adjustment curves. Right? And we could probably bring this on up like so. So there's a definite distinction between both sides. Of course, I've got to massage the texture a little bit so that some of these line up on the side here. But you're getting the point for this example. Now, find another texture for your roof and place it on top. Okay? So find a texture that you think is going to match your perspective. Now, one thing wrong with this example, F9, I'm going to kind of get in closer, is if you look at, you're going to want to see some of the bottom window sills here, which you're going to have to draw those in very quickly. I'll show you techniques for that a little bit later. But I just want to kind of give you an idea that you're welcome to use your tools like your pattern tool to help you, to kind of get you started. Or if you find a pattern that's going to be one complete wall and it's going to match your vision, you can just use that. You're welcome to do that as well. Okay, so shadows. So I'm going to treat this. This can work one of two ways, or not one of two ways, in several different ways. You're looking at the direction of your light. So if your light's coming from the direct side, your shadows are going to come kind of back along these lines here. If we're assuming the lighting is coming from behind the building, this is going to go in the shade and your shadow is going to drop back. So your shadows are going to go underneath. I'll start them from on top so you guys can see what I'm doing here. Make a brand new layer. Grab a rectangular tool. Rectangle tool. fill it with black. Okay, and we're going to match perspective. Now one is I'm gonna go ahead and make a new layer so I can kind of make a point here, literally. Command D, hit my B key for my brush. So if lighting is coming that way from the back, then this shadow, Command T, and again, these shadows here, you can make these smart objects, right? Kind of the new way of working in Photoshop with these smart objects. Right click, once you make your initial shape, right click, convert to smart object, right? Then we can still apply all our commands to it. So if I go to edit menu and I'm going to go to my transform, distort, right? I can grab these points and lay down my shadows. And your shadows are going to follow perspective. If the lighting, however, is going to go from this way, from following the red line, and I'll make another arrow here. If in the event it's going to follow in this direction, then your shadows are going to go across this perspective line, right? So if I duplicate this layer, Command J, and Command T, right? All I need to do is just kind of, and I'm going to go back and go to my edit menu, transform, distort. Okay. And pull it on over. Okay, let's just do it this way. It might have been easier to do it this way. Let's do it this way. Let's rotate it. Command T, rotate it, or take my, well, maybe I had it right the first time, but tell you what, it might be easier just to make a new one. Just start fresh. Let's make another little grid, fill it with black. Okay, I want to make a brand new layer. Fill it with black, make it a smart object. Okay, and I'll show you why in just a moment. Edit menu, go to my distort, right? Lay it on back this way. Okay, so assuming it's going to start there, across your building. Okay, that's what it's going to do. But what you have to do is place this beneath your architecture, which is there. Oops. Undo that there. There. Okay. That's my architecture there. Grab it there. And I should disconnect it here. There. Okay. Getting closer. It's not following the perspective quite right. No big deal. Command T. Edit, because you guys know how to go and distort and just manipulate that. So make sure that this is following that red line. Okay. Make sure this one's following this red line. Well, it depends on where this is going to be. If I grab this out and go to the edge, okay, that means this needs to come out to here. This is following the red line right along the edge, and then this portion is following the yellow line. So it's all perspective. So depending on the angle of your lighting, you're going to try to match perspective the best as you can. This front one here, get stuff out of my way here. Go. That front one, which we have on the top, I believe is this one here. Let's see, what is that? There it is. I duplicated that accidentally. that too will come underneath your building. Okay, see? If the lighting is coming from this direction. And that one there again, we come back to our edit menu, transform, distort, get in closer. All right, pull this on out so it matches the corner of that building. And you're welcome to kind of bring those points just right at the edge, making sure the rest of the image matches perspective. See? Doesn't matter back here. This is going off the edge. Okay. From this point now, why did we change these to a smart object? Because now you can start playing around with how lighting works. The closer your shadow gets to the edge of the building, the harder edge is going to be. The further away your shadow travels from the building, the softer your edge is going to be. So I'm going to turn off my perspective grid right now. Just going to turn it off. And let's go ahead and replicate that concept. Let's start with this front shadow here. So this is why you have to keep things organized, right? So that's your back shadow. That's the front shadow there. Okay. Target the front shadow here. It's a smart object. Let's give it a Gaussian blur. In fact, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Okay. The idea is that closer to the front edge of the building, you want it hard edge. The further you get away, the softer edge you're going to be. So we're going to use a gradient. So here's my image. Here's the effect. But this effect has a mask associated with it. Anything with black is going to show the effect. It's going to hide the effect. Anything with white shows the effect. So if I go onto this mask and hit my B key for my brush, and I'm going to right click and get a different type of brush. I'm going to get a softer edge brush with opacity applied to it, that one there. And if I paint with black, it takes the effect away on the mask. If I paint with white on the mask, hitting the X key to switch my foreground and background color, it brings the effect back. So I'm going to fill this layer with white. Alt backspace or Alt delete fills with the foreground color. Control delete fills with the background color. So if I go Alt delete or backspace, it fills it completely. Now what I want to do is I want to make a gradient along here. Hit the G key for the gradient, or it's the number 7th tool on the left hand side in a double layer. I want to make sure I'm filling from foreground to background. So in other words, if I come up here to my options bar, I want to make sure I click on this gradient pattern. I want to make sure, well, these are presets. Oh, these are my gradients. Oh, it's got in groups now. I love this. Okay, so new in Photoshop. My gradients. Drop this out. There they are. Untitled gradients. I want to make sure that one's selected. Before, these gradients just came up automatically. Now they have been grouped in folders. And evidently they give me a whole bunch of different presets. So I'm going to select the foreground and background. Foreground, the background. Where I start is the foreground. Where I end is the background. So I'm going to switch it. So I want to take away the effect from the foreground and end with the effect of the background, right? On the mask. Click and drag in the direction of perspective. Boom. Okay. And I can play around with the shading. I probably start further back here and see what that looks like. and just play around with it. Take this one, bring down the opacity so we can see the texture underneath it. If I need to go back and edit the Gaussian blur, double click on the Gaussian blur, and I've got options here. There. That's better looking. If I bring the opacity up a little bit, that's a little better looking. Just playing around with the Gaussian blur a little bit here. And then, of course, play with the layer opacity. The further the shadow gets away from your layer, the less opaque it's going to be. So to apply that effect, give this a layer mask directly to it. White reveals, black conceals, right? So if I start with white here and pull it way out like this, I start to see the effect. I'm going to pull it even further out. Okay. See basically what I'm doing? You can go into the mask and edit this. Big brush, right? And you can say, okay, I want it, more solid like this, see that? Like that, just a little more, and then control it. Control your gradient, that with a brush. Is that making sense? So your homework assignment is do a 3-point perspective, this time with textures everywhere. Everything's got to be textured. Windows, doors, the streets got to be textured with lines. Find seamless textures. Textures.com is great for this. Sorry, these textures didn't line up right up over here to the right, but I'll show you ways out of this. Just getting it lined up right. So if you choose to work with just laying out your shapes, you can use that, right? So if I go, let's actually go open up the texture, just the raw texture. How about if we get another one? Let's get this one here. Yeah, come on, open up. Open up. All right, that took a little while for Photoshop to open up. It shouldn't have, though. Okay, there's my building. Put it to the side, V key. Let's say in this example, you like, your architecture exactly the way you want it. Let's go to the layer. We can make it a smart object. Okay. Command T. Let's bring it down. Now let's put this underneath your blue grid there. Hit enter. And let's get a little closer. All right. So my blue grid is underneath here. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag this underneath it so it's easier for me to see what's going on. All right. So if I start to lay this down on the grid, image menu, edit menu, not image menu, but edit menu, transform, distort. Bring this on down. All right. Something like that. Now, obviously, the lighting isn't quite right on this one, but you're getting the point. Because you'll be seeing underneath this. And if that's what you want, you can flip this upside down. Okay. So if I duplicate this again, Command or Control J. All right. It's your move tool. We'll move it to the side like that. All right. Kind of get it positioned first. So we'll come back to edit menu, transform, distort again. Let's get in close. Kind of get this in there, kind of line them up like this, and then just get this other side. Shading is not quite on here. This is not the right texture for this, but I'm just trying to share with you. That's where you can go. If you turn this off, all right, Command T, let's go to distort. There we go. These are lined up a little better. A lot better. Okay. So one's going to be lit, one's going to be shaded. And we're going to commit our changes. All right, there we go. Just started working. So this is going to be your lit side. This is going to be your shaded side. They're both smart objects. Image adjustments. Go to your curves. Your shaded side, your highlights and shadows are going to go down deeper. All right, let's bring this down. Okay, just keep that in mind. And that's going to go brighter. Not the right texture for this one because we should be seeing the bottom. But again, you could flip this texture is usable enough that you can flip it around upside down, right? And do it that way. So kind of use your head with these things. All right, take a break. And, okay, so just got back from break here, and I started talking about the textures here based on the perspective that we're in are upside down. Right, so basically we should not be able to see the top edges of this particular texture that we're using. But the beauty of this whole thing is that we have smart objects, right? And we can go into smart objects and make those changes. Now, if I go into one smart object, watch, now notice these are two separate objects, one here and one there, right? I'm going to go into one, double click it, I'm inside it. Let's go to my edit menu, transform, what? Flip vertical. Boom. All right. Now, let's hit Windows, Arrange, Tile Vertically. Okay. Kind of just cascade this up, get this out of the way temporarily. Now we hit Command or Control S. Boom. See? Now, now that works a little better, not quite, because now we need to flip it the other way. If we flip, we do the same thing here. Let's actually go on and try. Notice that both of them have been flipped. Right? Both of these have been flipped. Both, yes. Because it worked as an instance. We created one smart object and then we duplicated it. So both of those layers, because they're duplicates, is using the one smart object. So if I flip this going vertically, actually, surely it shouldn't matter. It should give me the same result, but I want to just see what it's going to look like. So in this particular file, and edit menu, transform, flip vertical. No, it's not what I want to do. Undo that one. I want to flip horizontal. Flip horizontal. See, it's the same. It's exactly the same. It's not going to be any different because it's seamless. So, yeah. So if you wanted to kind of fake it a little bit and see in that bottom window ledge, you can. The problem with this side is that this one is that you're going to see this side as well. You may have to fake it by drawing in some of the ledges in here. It will be fine if now, say for example, you did not want this to be the same one for both sides. Right? What you can do is you can save out this texture twice, texture 1, texture 2, and then use each texture for each side separately.
You just make two different smart objects.
They're basically two separate smart objects then. They're not relying on the one image here inside the smart object for both layers. So you have two versions of this saved out. It might be easier if you know one's going to be darker side, the other one's going to be the lighter side. Just make one dark, save it, make another one light, save it, make that a smart object, and that way it's easier for you to kind of visually tell what's going on. So I want your textures to look great. I need you guys also to kind of go and look at inspired stuff. This is going to inspire you here. So if I come in here, let's go ahead and look at. We've got ArtStation. Got some great stuff to inspire you. ArtStation, and let's go search for something. How about let's say 3-point perspective scenes. So I know they've got more than this in here. Okay, so I want your textures to look accurate. I want this to look right, and I want to talk more about lighting too. You can see a little bit how this person created this piece. Starting with the line drawing, going into shading, going into the coloring. All right. So we're talking about full color pieces. Your particular piece has to include a sky. All right. It needs to include a sky. That's going to be part of the formulation. 10 buildings minimum. I want streets. I want a sky included. Okay. I want your lighting to look right. Really fun stuff. Kind of get inspired. ArtStation. There is what's another one? My memory is kind of fading me. But if worse comes to worse, go to Google. Digital Paint 3-point perspective. Go to images. There we go. Got a lot of good stuff here. Okay. I'm going to let you guys have creative license on whether you want to do a fantasy or a sci-fi, but use these examples. I wonder if this is the department chair calling me. Hey, buddy, I'm just I'm in class. I'm gonna call you in a few minutes. I'm gonna take a quick break. Okay, bye. All right. Damn telephone. Cut that out. All right. So now look at other examples here. All right. Look at the different lighting styles this person's using. Look at in this particular example, he's showing you a single point perspective, different compositions that he played around with here. 3 different compositions. He tried a 1 point here, another 1 point here. Here's a 2 point here of this composition, and made a decision on what to create based on that. So okay, let's go down to here. Another example, 3-point perspective. All right, the line's going this way, 1 point here, going up, so the point that for the buildings going for the vertical lines, your points are way up here somewhere, right? And then going to the right side or left side, I'm sorry, it points way out over here somewhere. Three-point perspective. Some varying examples of it. You know, and be creative. Look at that one. Be really creative. Think of now. This one is going to require you to take. It's going to take a lot more time. Please don't underestimate this one, but it's going to be a lot more fun. Right? What you can do, the three-point perspective. Really get this. This is a really extreme, but it's fun. But it's all following perspective, and it looks right when it follows perspective. It's like a watercolor piece, but all following perspective. Love these digital paintings. All following perspective. And that's why they look right. It gives you the feeling that you're looking, everybody's looking through the same lens, the same focal length of lens. Wide angle, telephoto, medium range, doesn't matter. They're all following the rules of that particular perspective. Is that making sense? Okay. All right, so then I'll let you guys kind of spend the rest of the class kind of researching out what you want to do and kind of pulling it together. And this assignment, I'm going to definitely want sky, right, with clouds. That's going to be part of the assignment. A sky with clouds, 10 buildings. All right, buildings going to have windows. They're going to have doors, so you can utilize textures to do so.
And we have to use the real textures, so like the example you showed us when you were doing like those. It's not like drawing your own city following perspective.
Well, you're welcome to draw your own city, but I would like you to use photo textures.
Okay.
I'll make that part of the assignment. Okay. What you can do when you've got three-point perspective. Right. This is going to be really handy when you kind of get into the whole art business, the business of art.
So for the sky, can you use photo texture or just?
The sky can be a photo texture, or you can paint it. But no, you can use the original. The sky has to be a photo texture. Yeah, no, sky. I'll be flexible. I mean, you want to paint your own clouds in. If you're good at painting, and you want to do that, you're welcome to do so. Okay, but I'm thinking more of the textures for your architecture. Use photo textures for that. If you want to add grass, you want to paint in your own grass, so it's got to look right. It's got to look real. You can't throw in a bunch of color and say, Steve, this is what it really is. Give me credit for it. No. It's got to have some type of streets or something, or some type of an access way to all the different buildings. Okay. So it's got to have stuff like if you're going to have a sidewalk, you have to make it look like a sidewalk. Sidewalks are about, 6 to 12 inches off the ground. You have to show that dimension. So like all this the things you can do with three-point perspective. Okay. So your street lamps, include street lamps. Here's a single point perspective, just kind of going back to what we're doing, what you can do with that. It's really a lot of fun. But yeah, it's amazing. You do some nice stuff with it. You can do maybe something like this, and then remove this stuff from the background to see your city back here. Right? Perspective is important. It is important. Okay. I'll pause recording and we'll start working. Let's do it this way. Okay, all right. So the question is, how do you work with curved objects? Well, let's answer that question this way. Here's my perspective grid. As you can see here, we've been kind of playing around with our buildings, and I'm going to go ahead and let's make another. I'm going to make a new layer. Actually, it's kind of bring my layers down here so we can see what we're doing. Make a new layer right up here. And let's go ahead and I'm going to just make a selection. In fact, hold the shift key. I'll make a perfect rectangle here. Okay. And let's go and fill this with a particular color. I'm going to go ahead and fill it with maybe a little bit of a lighter gray. Okay. All right. There we go. Now, inside this one, I'm just going to make a circle using my selection tool. And again, starting from this corner, holding the shift key, make a perfect circle to the opposite corner. I'll just place it dead center, like so. I'm going to stroke that one, edit menu, stroke it. All I'm doing is I'm just making a template. And this is, I'm going to go about 8 pixels, fill that color with and I'm going to, with black, and I'm going to fill it from the inside. There's my template. Okay, just a single layer. I'm going to go ahead and make that a smart object to make this a lot easier on me. Convert to smart object. Hit my V key, and there is my shape. Now, this is basically your curves here. Curves are going to conform to perspective, but they're going to conform to perspective based on how they're laid out within this rectangular shape. So, for example, if this was going to be the right-hand side of a building, and I'm going to duplicate this twice, I'm going to use the other side for something else. I'm going to follow the green lines. My green lines kind of this lightish greenish here. Go to the green lines, Command T for freeze transform, and I will go over to my edit menu, transform, go to my distort, and this is going to be the right side. See how these are flowing? Take these points, maybe I'll come up to here. Okay, now the vertical edges, that's that side. Now the vertical edges have to match the yellow lines there. Take this vertical edge, keep it matching the green, but this has to match the yellow coming this way. See how that's working? So you're looking at, in between the lines from one point to the other, where does the curve start and where does it end? For example, if I wanted to make a curve, get in a little closer, look at how the curve for this particular circle is going to be affected along this line here. It starts here, it ends right about there. It kind of gives you an idea how that circle is going to be distorted. If I go grab the other one, and we're going to make the other side of our building, like so. Edit menu, distort, transform, go to my distort command. Okay, we're going to put the lines there, distort it like that. Again, say this building is going to be, that wall is going to be here. It's got to flow with this one. This edge has got to you know, come up to here, and it's got to flow with the red lines, right? So I tell you, I'll bring this one down to here. Okay. If I want a shorter wall, just make it shorter. Again, following perspective. This has got to follow the red line. Right about there approximately. You see what we're doing? See how the curves are being affected? So the question is, and I'm going to undo this one. Watch, I'll go ahead and do this way here. So the question is, if I want to make a fence, say for example, there's a big mistake. Whenever I use shortcuts in here for zooming in and out, 2020 freezes up. Strange. All right, so taking our original layer, say for example, you want the fence to be kind of curved. So the top end and the back end is going to be basically the top of the fence is going to be the same height. The pole is going to be the same height, but it's going to curve along that shape. So let's actually draw it out freehand here. Let me kind of get in closer. We're going to follow the rules of perspective. Let's make a new layer here. Put it right on top. New layer. And let's say your fence posts. And we're going to make that kind of a green color, just so it's easier to see. B key. Okay. So we're going to say one post is going to be out here. It's going to be outside this building. And this building is going to have a little post. So I'm going to tap and release and hold the shift key. It says it's going to be this tall. Right? Following the rules of perspective. See, I'm following my in between there. Click and release here. Shift key. So it should fall along this line. Now, if you want this to be curved, let's go ahead and change the color. Make it a red. Let me like this little red net in between, so to speak. You're going to think about how that's going to connect from here to here. It draws the curve and connects to here. That's following perspective. Right? Because this one's going to be smaller in the background, this will be taller, so it'll follow perspective. It'll connect the two. If you want to make anything curved in your scene. So just think about where the beginning of the fence begins, where it ends, right? So tap and release here. And then your posts are going to be in between. See how the posts are not going to be the same thickness, by the way. They're going to get smaller as you get further down to the back here. And they're going to condense up a little bit. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a simple little explanation of how to deal with curves. Just think of curves as a circle within your rectangle. And if you distort that rectangle, like we did up here, let's turn that, all right? You can see how that would actually fall within your perspective plane that you created. Okay. I feel that would be an easier way to explain this to kind of show it to you.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Okay. All right, go ahead and go back to. Shut up. Is your homework in the folder, the Stephen Burns folder? It's in there? Okay. All right. Where are you? You are J. There you go. Okay, this is your single point perspective. How's that look, everybody?
One. More windows.
Is there more windows? Okay. Okay, so let's see. What were we supposed to have with this one again? Shucks. I just closed out the damn assignment sheet. Right. Windows, doors, buildings, and streets. So you see, the streets aren't finished, are they? The streets aren't quite finished. What was that? Which one? Point it out. Oh, right there. Oh, really? Hold on a second. Open it up in Photoshop. There we go. Which window?
It's a little more up than with these.
Let's see. Oh, this one here. It's a little taller, right? But is it out of perspective? It's in perspective.
They might be a little off.
Yeah, that's in perspective. The only thing that I'm gonna ding you on is your streets aren't quite correct, because your cars will be bigger than your buildings on this street. So your perspective is off there. Let's take a look at the other one real quick. And the same thing here. Your streets aren't correct. So your cars will be huge. Your cars will be like this big on this street. And that's bigger than your skyscraper. So you've got lighting looks, let's see, lighting look all right on this one. Perspective looks good. What do you guys think?
No. Well, the strokes make it look like the buildings are about to be sucked into a void.
Yeah.
That's nice.
A little bit. Be careful with these windows here. This is a look. These windows are off. Yeah, the windows are off. They're not in perspective.
It's completely off.
Right. Yeah, you see that there? Your windows up here, they're off. That's off. They're not flowing with the green lines. And yeah, it's really important.
Did you make the windows individually, or were they?
See this one here? See that one right there? That's off. Did you make them individually? You copy. Did you do it as a grid?
Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay. It looks like you did as a grid, but it didn't quite get the. This side isn't too bad, except for over here. You got down to here. These are off. See that your red line is going this way, but your windows is crossing your line. So your edge should not cross the red line. See how it crosses there? It should be parallel. So I'm gonna ding you for you're off on perspective, and I'm gonna take 2 points for your streets are not complete. So that's 4 points. I'm gonna give you 6 on this one. But you're close. It's close. So follow your perspective line. When you do these, get in close. Zoom in close like this so you can make sure everything matches up. What you're probably doing is working far away like this. And it's hard to judge where lines or how they're being accurate. So make sure you get closer like this, and then it'll be accurate. you can resize it or adjust it to match your perspective lines. Cool. All right, so let's see. Jay, I'm gonna give you 6 points on that one. Your last name? Part? There it is, J Part. Found you. I'll give you 6 on that one. Okay. All right. Right there. Oops.
So it looks like he's doing sketch of like what he wants to,
Yeah.
what he wants to do.
It's gonna store the data.
I feel like it would have been better to start the bridge first.
Yeah.
And then
The grid first and work with that. Yeah. Okay. Dave, I tried to get you out of this before, but the problem is that at the time I got working from cancel, we've been canceling classes because yeah, whatever. Hmm. Mhm. They ask your first class You know what? I've got another idea. Let's teach it this way. I've got a technique you guys will like. In terms of curving your shapes or something, I think this might be helpful. Just pause this real quick. Okay. Okay, I've got an idea here. All right. So the question was curving things. So I've got an idea. Let's do this. Let me go get another image. Let's open up this image here. Let's take this image, select A, which is Command A, edit menu, and let's make that a new what? Pattern. Right? There isn't a lot of shadows on here to kind of give away the direction of the piece, so this will be a lot better example. And let's go back to our other image. Okay. Let's get in closer to this one. What we're going to do is I wanted to apply this shape, apply this technique to this particular shape. That is, if I put this on, I suppose I can put it on both smart objects here, but let's get rid of this one here. I'm going to target this one, turn it off and on, and I'm going to apply that texture that I just brought in to this particular object. I want to actually modify this object a little bit better too. So if I come over here, my edit menu, transform, go to my distort, and do a better job in aligning this up. Okay, and hit enter, and then hit my V key and nudge it up so it lines up with the top and bottom a little bit better. Okay. All right. Double click and go inside it. All right. Now what I'm going to do is create a new pattern like so. Now this pattern's huge, right? So that means we need to kind of bring it down. So maybe I'll take it to something like that. And then if I click and hold, I can drag it around like this. But just for educational purposes, I want a little bit more. I want something like this. That's as seamless as we're going to get it. All right. This is just a pattern I found, and I think that's good enough. We'll go with this one here. Well, no, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Right there. That's easier. That's easier to see. And click OK. Command S, Command W to close it out. Okay, there's my patterns on my building. So I want to get a curved effect here. So these are smart objects. So on one of the buildings, what I'll do is edit, transform one of the sides. I mean, not the buildings. Warp. All right, and we can push things up like this. All right. So that's going to be kind of the curvature of the building. Come down to the bottom, and we can curve that up. And of course, we can modify the sides accordingly. Let's go ahead and grab this one. Let's go get the side here. I'm thinking, let me undo this real quick. Okay. Edit menu. Okay, go to my edit menu, transform. And let's go target our warp once again. And we can pull that on up. Now this is probably going to come down a little bit because we're below the horizon line. All right, pushing it down there. Let's pull the opposite way. And of course we can adjust the curve. Okay. If we go to the other side, which obviously is this side here, I'm going to bring this on up, get placed in between the two, and I can modify that accordingly. Edit menu, transform, and go to your, I think I'm going to go to distort first. All right, so I can kind of, play around with this. All right, let's say we want this to curve a little bit. I'm going to bring it on down, kind of get the curvature going. Distort is here. The reason I'm doing it this way is going to go to my edit menu, transform, warp. I'm going to play with this. All right. It's going to be more of a slightly smaller curve in there. So the idea is to make this curved. Now you're going to have to treat both sides separately because you want this to be a separate texture from over here so that you can independently resize this to match the size of your windows here. So if you want to kind of play around with the concept of curvature in your buildings, this might not be a bad way to go. Now, as a smart object, you can resize it. But just once again, just keep in mind you may need to play with these textures. So if I hit enter and if I pull this out, okay, there we go. I've got another texture here, right? It's amazing. Come on, Photoshop. It's 2020. It's got some bugs. It will not follow my commands here. If I want to modify this texture on the left-hand side, I'm not going to be able to do it in this case without modifying the other. All right, so once again, if you get a feeling of you want both sides of your architecture to be the same, but yet you're going to need to modify the texture separately, then save out two versions of that texture so you can move the other one up and resize it to kind of match the flow of this shape. That making sense? For example, the dark areas come and match up and the light areas will match up and all that stuff. So toy with that. If worse comes to worse, then hell, just go grab this thing, edit menu, transform, warp. You can always just push it up. But keeping this portion down, modifying this, but you can push in the center portion, right? But you can continue to modify, push that on up like so. It's kind of tweak it around a little bit. Grab the center, pull that up a little more, and let's go to the edges. So it's like a little lattice. You can tweak the center separately from the edges and just kind of get them lined up like so. If worse comes to worse. Then all you need to do next is just get your gradient going here. Now both of them are together, right? So, but they're two separate to make them look like this should be, a continuous shape. Select them both, right click, Smart Object. And you can use your gradient tool. Let's see, if we go ahead and give it a new layer, make a gradient. So this layer is going to be a clipping path to this here, right? Go to my D key on my keyboard, which changes to black and white. If I go to my gradient option here, and this time I want the gradient to be a mirror gradient. So where I start from is going to mirror it. So I'm going to start foreground to background. So my foreground color is going to be white. My background color is going to be light. So if I click here and drag this way to here, and I'm going to drag it a little more accurately. So something like this. There we go. Probably I like it better the other way. Come further out to the building. There we go. I'm going to do it again, but just kind of playing with the angle here. See that? All right. And then change that blend mode. So I have it as a clipping path, right? And then change your blend mode to something like overlay or something that will give you a feeling of a gradient. Let's see what the luminosity does. Let's normal, darken, darken, lighten. Let's see, overlay, hard light.
Is it
Not liking any of these.
is it possible to use the gradient and rather than doing an overlay, would be reducing the opacity?
Well, what I would do is probably use the gradient on a mask for a lighting layer. So if let's do it this way. Let's delete this here. Let's create a light something to light this scene. And I also want to go dark in the back. So I'm thinking a couple ways to handle this. Let's try it this way. Let's make a new layer here. Let's light this. For example, kind of give like a warm lighting coming across here. All right, fill that layer with this light source and make that layer a clipping path to the building. And let's change let's see there we go. Got some options there. I like the lighten or the screen. Let's see, what do we have here? Oh, that linear burn is not too bad. I want to see how well these light. Overlay, soft light, hard light. Yeah, part of me is thinking of going to screen, but bring down the opacity a little bit. But no, you know what? I think I'm gonna like that overlay better and bring down the opacity just a little bit. And then on to this one, add a layer mask, and then we can utilize that as our light layer. Come back here at another layer mask and add the shadows to the edges here. So we come over here and make a new layer, fill that with black. Okay, make that a clipping path. And do this one, clipping path there. All right, and this is going to be another gradient. But the gradient I think I'm going to use on this one is going to be, let's go ahead and make a new mask. It's going to be foreground to background, but I'm going to make it linear here. This was mirror here, this is linear here. So I'm going to foreground to background, so probably in this direction, something like this. Give this a layer blend mode of multiply and adjust your opacity as you need it. I'm trying to get a smooth gradient on here. There are much better ways to handle this, but it kind of gives you an idea of how to utilize your layers and your masks. And I could probably also put another one right on the side here. I like to use the paintbrush and paint it on, but this is a nice quick little way to handle it. I can add probably a slight little, in fact, let's go and duplicate this layer. Command J. Command Z, thank you. There we go. All right, so I'm going to modify this mask. So let's go ahead and fill that with black, white, drag it, and go to something like this. Drag it a little bit more, go to something like this, and the direction makes a difference. I'm flowing with the perspective line here as much as I can. There we go. I'm doing too much. Okay, so adjust the opacity of your layer. Target the mask, disconnect the link. Doesn't really matter, but Command T, you can rotate your mask. Let's target this again. I've got something else selected. All right, let's do this again. Let's go ahead and fill that with black and white to black. I believe my gradient tool is selected there. Okay. Yeah, this is a simple example. If you want to do like curves kind of within your perspective grid. There's something to kind of play around with. Oops, I accidentally just clicked on stuff. Is that helpful? A little bit? Okay. Okay, cool. All right, so one little thing on curves, as you can see, I transformed my square. Let's come over here to edit menu and do this a little bit more accurately. Transform, distort, and just make sure these curves are lining up correctly. I'm going to just re-inspect it again. Pull this down. Okay, that looks good. That's good enough. All right, I'm going to hit enter. All right, now I'm going to take this one, and as you can see, it was just a flat square before. Now we've got it transformed according to my perspective on one side. I want to make this a wheel. I'm going to change my blend mode to darken, which gets rid of all the white, and I've got my wheel within that perspective. Now I want to make the rest of my tire here, right? So how about if let's go ahead and get kind of a brush. Hit the B key for my brush, and I'm going to get that little brush right there work just fine. And looking at on the left-hand side, it's going to follow my red lines, right? All right. So I'm going to just start drawing out, following that left line. Go to the bottom edge of my wheel, and I'm going to follow these red lines here. R key, rotate a little bit so it's easier for me to draw. Hold my space bar down, and I'm going to start kind of drawing along this grid right about there, right? Is that making sense? And then pull this down, rotate this over again. That's a little easier. Cool. So actually I should really come more from up here, but it's following that grid. And then what are we going to do with this circle? I can draw this circle out to match the perspective of the other, or I can duplicate it, Command or Control J, V key for the move that one over to here, Command T, and all right.
Solid third of the time.
Yeah. So now resize this down. No, 2 clicks in the freeze. See what we're doing there? All right. So now I can finish my, go to my eraser tool, E for the eraser tool, and just erase all this out that I don't need. All right. Let's see if my eraser is at, I want 100% opacity. There we go. Take it out and take that out right there. There's the start of my wheel. Hit my B key, and of course, this can be my, say like my grid patterns on the wheel. The Groutzner wheel matches perspective. Matches perspective. Matches perspective. I'm being sloppy with this, but you guys are getting the point. Right? Matches perspective. Then the curvature matches the curve that you've already established down to here. Come to the center. If this starts at the center, it matches the curve, same parallel to the curve that you have. and ends at the center on the bottom. Is that making sense? So that's how you kind of judge whether your curves are right. If you start here on that curve right there, you're going to end right there on that curve, right? But you're going to stay parallel to your previous curve until you end there. Is that making sense? So if you want like the inner tire, I'm going to just quickly draw it out. Everything stays parallel to your sides approximately. That's sloppy, but you guys will get the point. All right. That's it. That's all I'm teaching you today. That's enough. We're all done. All right, so we'll come back Monday. You'll work on your assignments. Come with a solid idea in head. That's complete. Get most of your work starting your work now over the weekend. Get it completed, mostly completed the weekend. Come on Monday, finish it up. Wednesday we're ready to. Monday there's no class. That's right, no class Monday. All right, I'm recording this. No class Monday. So basically, you got to complete this over the weekend through next week. I'll give you the first part of the class to work on this, and then we'll do grading. Don't procrastinate. Oh, we're off on Monday. We got plenty of time. You can see where this is going. That's right.
You started my grid.
Yeah, start your grid.
I got my grid.
All right, have a good night.